You've probably heard of affirmations, the practice of repeating specific statements to yourself, aloud or in writing, in order to change how you think. They generally look something like these examples. I, John Doe, will take a vacation to Mexico City this year. I am intelligent, capable, and amazing at doing my job. I am loved and respected by everyone I love and respect. We'll talk more about the construction of affirmations shortly, but the first question most people have is, do they work? And if they are effective, what's the best way to do them? If done correctly and consistently, affirmations can indeed help you alter your thinking by changing subconscious patterns. Let's talk about 3 keys to success, and then we'll look at one particular way of doing affirmations that can supercharge the practice and give you results so uncanny they often feel magical. First, the keys. Very simply put, your degree of success with affirmations, meaning the degree to which you end up getting what you want, depends on the thoughts you choose, the emotion you put into those thoughts, and perhaps most important, how consistent you are. Think of your thoughts as an engine, and your emotions as the fuel that makes the engine run. Or, just as you can do more with a fully charged electronic device with an ample battery, any thought that carries a strong emotional charge is more interesting to the mind, and the brain will build robust neural pathways as a result. This means that the thought in question will hold its place firmly in your memory, eventually assuming a place of prominence in your subconscious. The subconscious is where most of the action really takes place, in terms of your decision-making, your reactions and responses to your experiences, and the signal you broadcast to the rest of the universe. This is why the whole point of affirmations is to intentionally embed certain thoughts in your subconscious mind. Consistency is necessary because it takes repetition to build neural pathways in your brain that are both well-established and lasting, and that in turn have the desired effect on the subconscious mind. Now, on to the first step in the process, creating the affirmation itself. This is the statement you're going to be repeating, the statement that represents the idea you want your subconscious to adopt. It can be almost anything from something you want to believe about yourself, to something you want to accomplish, to something you simply want to see come true. Now is a good time to point out that affirmations do not simply work by affecting a person psychologically. There also exists a mechanism by which your affirmations directly influence the fabric of reality itself. Mainstream science may deny that this is possible, but the experiences of countless people over the course of millennia confirm that your thoughts and emotions do, in fact, play a role in shaping reality itself, without you having to take any physical actions. There is no widely agreed upon explanation for how this happens, or to what degree it happens, but at the very least we can understand that it does happen. And it happens whether we realize it or not, and whether we want it to or not. Our thoughts and emotions are always having a direct effect on the fabric of reality. The closer to you any particular aspect of reality is, the greater the effect you have and can potentially have. Affirmations are simply one tool for intentionally having a specific effect on reality. And there is no need to understand how it works if you know how to make it work in a very intentional way. This is not to say that the power of affirmations isn't psychological in nature. It certainly is, but not in the purely material way mainstream science would have you believe. What must be understood is that what's happening psychologically determines our thoughts and emotions, and our thoughts and emotions both determine our actions and directly affect the fabric of reality in a way that goes beyond the impact that our actions have. This is why it is acceptable to create affirmations that are simply about something you would like to see come true, even if there are no actions you can take to try to make that thing come true. For example, you can create an affirmation like, on June 25th of next year, the weather in Washington, D.C. will be sunny and warm, with low humidity and a high temperature between 75 degrees and 80 degrees. There's no physical action you can take to make that come true, but your thoughts and feelings alone can make it more likely to come true. So while even with affirmations, your ability to create that outcome will be fairly limited, creating such an affirmation is still not a waste of time. because it can make that outcome more likely. Before we continue, let's take a moment to address something that was just said about that example. Even with affirmations, your ability to create that outcome will be fairly limited. Affecting something like the weather for an entire city, or doing something else equally as big in terms of impact, is much more difficult to do than affecting something that mostly pertains to you personally. The closer the goal is to your own life specifically, the more ability you have to bend the fabric of reality to your liking. But goals that would immediately affect large systems or large numbers of people are generally not good candidates for affirmations, namely because such goals would have to override the effects many other beings are creating with their own mental activity. Such goals may also run afoul of nature itself, which means you would be pitting your individual will against entire systems that maintain and sustain life and order. So generally speaking, it is best to create affirmations that relate to some aspect of yourself or your personal circumstances in the present or in the future. These affirmations are the kind that are most likely to produce good results. First, because they don't usually require competing against outside forces as much, and second, because you can have an effect through both your actions and the direct effect your thoughts and emotions have on how reality manifests. When creating affirmations, you should aim to make them very specific, very clear, and as simple as possible. And it helps if they're easy to memorize. There's often debate about whether affirmations should be in the present tense or the future tense. For example, I have $10,000 in my savings account versus I will have $10,000 in my savings account. There's also a question about whether it's best to address yourself as I or you, as in I have or will have a job I love, versus saying to yourself you have or will have a job you love. But the answer to both debated questions is the same. Go with whatever feels the most natural and the most authentic to you. There are psychological factors that determine what does or doesn't work the best for each individual, but we won't get into those factors here. What we will say is that you can test the different affirmation formats, and it's usually pretty easy to identify which feels the most natural and the most authentic. If saying affirmations in the present tense makes you feel like you're lying or being ridiculous, then choose to create your affirmations in the future tense. Otherwise, use the present tense. And if saying I doesn't feel believable to you, then say you as though some authority figure is speaking to you. Otherwise, say I, or my, me, or mine. Additionally, some people believe that it's good or necessary to insert your name into each affirmation, usually in the form I, Jane Doe, am, or will. But once again, you should do a test to see what works best for you, including your name or not including your name. If it feels weird for you to include it, then don't. If it feels more powerful or empowering to include your name, then do. One more thing about what to include in your affirmations. You are most likely to find success if your affirmations represent goals that seem attainable to you, even if those goals seem very ambitious. If you make affirmations that really don't feel like they're possible to reach, your subconscious will have a great deal of difficulty accepting the mental reprogramming you are attempting. So be adventurous, dare to be ambitious, but make sure you're affirming things your mind can accept as at least remotely possible. Traditionally, affirmations are either spoken aloud or written down. If spoken, they may be uttered several times every day, often while standing in a mirror. When written, they're usually written repeatedly at one time in sets of 10, 15, or even 20 or more repetitions. Some people prefer to record themselves saying their affirmations repeatedly and then listen to them. The technique we're presenting here is a little different from all of those and has proven to be one of the most powerfully effective ways to do affirmations. This approach is actually a combination of some of the other methods, but executed in a very specific way. Step 1 is, of course, constructing the affirmation itself. Again, you want it to be very specific, very clear, as simple as possible, and easy to remember. Once it's constructed, you simply write it down in clear, easy-to-read handwriting on a piece of paper that is otherwise blank and clean. The next thing you need to do is to make a voice recording of yourself saying the affirmation aloud several times. If you don't have a recorder that has an auto-repeat feature, you will need to record yourself saying the affirmation repeatedly, at least 27 times. Leave a few seconds of silence between each affirmation. You can use your phone, a tablet, a micro data recorder, or even an old-fashioned tape recorder if you prefer. And though you can play the recording openly, it is much better to use headphones or earbuds that can broadcast the sound of your voice directly into your ears. Once you have the affirmation written down and you've made the recording of yourself saying the affirmation repeatedly, you're ready to start. Now, with the written affirmation in front of you, begin playing your voice recording of yourself saying the affirmation. As you hear the affirmation being said in your own voice, say the affirmation aloud along with the recording, and at the same time, read the affirmation written on the paper. This is really all there is to it. The idea is that you are hearing, speaking, and reading the affirmation simultaneously, again and again, for a total of 108 repetitions divided into 4 sets of 27 repetitions. After the first set, take a break for 60 seconds and then begin the next set of 27 repetitions. Then a break. And so on, until you've completed all 4 sets of 27 repetitions, for a total of 108 repetitions. Then you're done for the day, and you'll pick it up again the next day. Do this practice consistently, every single day, for a minimum of 90 days, or until the goal expressed through your affirmation is reached. And of course, you can continue beyond the 90-day mark if you so choose, or if you still need more time and repetition for your affirmations to pay off. You now have almost seen the entire technique, but there's one more key ingredient to this affirmation method that's absolutely critical to supercharging your experience and maximizing the probability that your affirmation will have the desired effect. Do you remember that we told you near the beginning of this presentation that your thoughts and emotions work hand in hand in the affirmation process? We compared your thoughts to an engine and your emotions to the fuel that powers that engine. So here's the secret sauce that makes all the difference. Before you begin the first set of 27 repetitions, sit with the written affirmation in front of you for a brief moment and use your imagination to cultivate the feeling you will have when the goal stated in the affirmation is achieved. Do your best to conjure the emotional state you will experience once you have it in hand. Once you've found that emotional state, and even if you can only feel it a little bit, bring that feeling into each repetition of your affirmation. The more you can feel it, the greater the impact each repetition will have on your mind, on your brain, and on the fabric of reality itself. One last little nugget of wisdom. Enjoy the process if you can. For many people, there is a strange but invigorating feeling that results from doing this practice, often experienced every time they finish the 108 total repetitions. Look forward to that feeling, have some fun with the practice, and then watch how quickly reality seems to begin rearranging itself to bring your goal to fruition. If you found this presentation useful or interesting, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share with anyone whom you think might benefit from seeing it.